Hello, I'm Master Sergeant Michael Vance from the United States Army Band Pershing Zone. And in this short lesson, we will talk about how to properly assemble the saxophone. What I'd like you to do as you reach into your case is pull out the neck strap, put it around your neck. And we can adjust the neck strap by pulling this little lever up or down. It will either lengthen the neck strap or shorten it. For our purposes, let's just put it somewhere in the middle right now. Next, I want you to grab the reed. Now, it will come in a plastic case, and I want you to, you'll notice that there is a thick end and a very, very thin, delicate tip. Do not touch the tip. I want you to grab the thick end of the reed and pull it out of the plastic case. And for our purposes now, I want you to look at this. You'll notice that this is the thick bark of the reed, and this is the shaved part. If you look in the back, this is the flat side. And this is the side that will go onto the mouthpiece. What we're going to do is, while we're grabbing still the thick part, the bark of the reed, we're going to put the reed in our mouth because it needs to be wet. It needs to be evenly wet so that the cane can vibrate properly. So what I want you to do is I want you to, while you're assembling the saxophone, put the reed in your mouth like this. Now, I can't talk with the reed in my mouth, so I'm going to place it over here, but you leave the reed in your mouth. And we'll go on. I want you now to get the neck of the saxophone. As we talked about in our other video, this is a very delicate piece of metal here, the octave key, and we don't want to inadvertently bump it. So I want you to grab this neck and place it kind of in the center in the palm of your hand and wrap your fingers around the top part like this. We will now grab some cork grease, especially if this is a new saxophone that you've just gotten. You'll want to put just a small amount of cork grease around. You don't really see it building up, but it will help the mouthpiece go onto the saxophone. So you apply some cork grease. Now I want you to grab the mouthpiece. This is the ligature. We're not going to use the ligature quite yet. We're going to take the mouthpiece, and if you look at this, you can see here's the flat side. We're going to attach the mouthpiece to the cork of the neck. And for our purposes right now, we'll put it somewhere in the middle. We don't want it out too far, and we don't want it all the way in either. So we'll put it kind of somewhere in the middle for now. Now that this is done, I'm going to carefully place the neck back in the case. Now, we'll grab the body of the saxophone. Again, we want to avoid touching or grabbing these rods or these keys. The safe way to grab the saxophone out of the case is to grab it by the bell and just gently lift it up. Now you'll notice that there's a plastic end piece on here. This is just for storing the saxophone while it's in the case. So you can just unscrew this a little bit and take the plastic piece and put it back in the case. On the back of the saxophone, you'll see this little loop. This is where you attach this hook that's on your neck strap. And it will go in there and you hold it here. Now, once this is attached, you still want to always maintain control of the saxophone. You don't want it to wiggle around. So keep a hand on there so that you can protect the saxophone. At this point now, we carefully grab the neck of the saxophone. Again, we loosen the screws here. Now, some saxophones will have another screw here, which is for, it has a different purpose. But you want to unscrew both of these screws, just loosen them a little bit. Grab the saxophone neck, as we talked about, like this, and gently insert it into the top of the saxophone, and just kind of gently turning it back and forth. Now, if you look here, you'll see that this piece lines up with the center of the bottom of the neck. That's a good starting place to put it. Now, once it's placed there, you want to tighten this screw. Not too tight, but just tight enough so that the neck does not turn. At this point, you can grab the ligature. This is the metal piece that will hold the reed on to the mouthpiece. Now, it's round, and you see the screws here that will go on the bottom, but if you look closely, you'll see that this circle in the front is smaller than this circle in the back. And that's because the saxophone is narrower up front and it gets wider and thicker the further we go down. So if you try to put it on backwards, it's not gonna work. It's gonna stop right there. So make sure that you put the big circle in first. And it will go over like this. Now, as I said, you would have been sucking on the reed the entire time, letting it get really moist. Before you attach your reed to the saxophone, at this point, I want you to now moisten the bottom part of the saxophone. That's also going to help form a seal. Now, this is where we want to be really careful. You want to hold on to the bark, to this thick part of the reed. You don't want to touch this part here. And as I pull this ligature up, I'm going to just gently slide the reed onto the mouthpiece. Never, never do this. Never put your finger on the tip and push down. That will crush the reed. So just don't touch that with your finger. Just kind of gently ease it on to the mouthpiece. And you kind of want to line it up so that the tip of the reed matches or is even with the tip of the mouthpiece. Once that's in place, you can lower the ligature so it's over the bark, and then just gently tighten the reed. Now, finally, I told you to put this somewhere in the middle. This is important. Like right now, if I tried to play, it's going to hit me in the nose. It's too high. So in my instance, I would need to lower this. You want the mouthpiece to be perpendicular to you. You don't want to play at this angle or like this. You want it to be kind of just straight on. And you want to sit on the edge of your chair. I will say this as well. The saxophone for an adult, it is meant to play an alto saxophone in front of you like this.